The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Digital Communion. Thomas and I are now in the same time zone. He is in California and I'm in Arizona, which is really, really cool because most of the time we are both on different sides of the planet, and it's quite a mission to get to the point where we can organize the episode of Digital Communion to be recorded. It's really good, Thomas, to be in the same time zone as you. As I said, it's quite sad that you are no longer the best looking man on the West Coast, but we'll get by.
I'll do what I can, man. I just like to make do, you know. I don't mind being second to you. But you're the only one.
It's good to see your face, but it's been way too long. I have a question for you today, and that is, what does being awake mean to you? And obviously we're not talking about I just woke up from 8 hours slumber. I'm talking about awake in the more figurative, almost metaphysical sense of the word.
Ooh. It's a great question. So recently I was in Nicaragua, and I spent 7 days on an island called Little Corn Island off the coast of Nicaragua.
Okay.
A place where there are no vehicles, limited internet and electricity even, limited fresh water, and you can see all the stars in the sky when the sun goes away.
Okay.
And I intuitively knew at a certain point in that place that was as close to physiological peace as I've had in my adult life. There are a lot of interesting things about Nicaragua that I want to share, particularly Little Corn Island and where I was, but the sense of place and my mental state all contributed to what I would define as being awake. It's probably the highest expression or articulation of the individual. That's how I would describe being awake. Man, it was really challenging because, you know, I was barefoot for 7 days and everything was sort of dappled by the shade of coconut groves and mango trees and wild pineapples and plantains and almonds, and it was a dream. It was like, as a kid, if I ever got marooned on an island, that's what I would have wanted it to be like. And the sense of peace that I felt there and the vibrations in my body, it was as good as I've felt physiologically. Like I know I'm repeating myself at this point, and I'm sort of rambling, but I've thought about this a lot, like what is the greatest expression of a human being, and it certainly isn't the life that I'm living in Los Angeles. So for me to be, I think I probably haven't been awake in my adult life like that, but a few times, maybe during a performance or being in a flow state. But man, this was like a continuous flow state for a week. And the joke I like to, you know, I make light of it by saying that I watched an iguana eat a piece of papaya up in a tree for like 20 minutes, and it was more fulfilling than anything I've done in 4 years in LA.
Wow.
And that's not true. I mean, it's not entirely true, but there's a lot of truth to that, man. Like the simplicity of just being and fully aware of your senses and your place and feeling very grounded and not anxious and not afraid and very comfortable with who you are in that moment of time is probably about as awake as I would think a person can be. But, you know, that's my rambling and sort of tangential description of that. What's yours? How do you define being awake?
Well, before I even get to the definition, I want to be straight up here and tell you that just picturing you chilling on a paradise island at 40 years, almost 40 years old, with that amazing full head of hair, I'm going to be straight up. It makes me kind of hate you a little bit. So I got to slay that dragon. I've just spent 5 weeks in London, and I'm going to be straight up with you as well. I asked that question. I'm going to be straight up with the audience and you. I asked that question to you because I did want to share my own perspective on what it feels to be awake. That 5 weeks in London, it was the beginning of a process that ran for 5 to 6 weeks. It's still kind of going on, but it took place between London, Amsterdam, and Syracuse, New York. It was a process of awakening. I went between those 3 locations over that course of 5 weeks. And in Amsterdam, I did partake in an ayahuasca ceremony for a very specific reason. And the reason was that during that time in London, I stumbled upon a theory about the nature of reality that initially I thought was so ridiculous and laughable that I dismissed it. But I'd been spending a lot of time on my own. My fiance was back in Arizona. My business partner was away for a while in London, and I was just spending a lot of time on my own. It was pretty cold. The weather is miserable as hell there that time of year. And I was just spending a lot of time indoors watching videos on some pretty esoteric subjects, including but not limited to certain conspiracy theories and just a wide range of diverse and what I could best categorize as fringe subjects. Are you following so far?
I love that
Yeah.
shit. Now I'm super intrigued.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not yet ready to reveal what it was or the root of it all. I will one day. I'm going to reveal it to you in private first. I've told a couple of other people, and eventually I think I'd like to make it public, probably through digital communion. But anyway, I stumbled upon this one theory, and the only reason I followed it down is because I had read and watched and engaged in so many other things. I was just running out of stuff to pique my interest, and this one did. And I thought, what the hell, there's nowhere left to go, I might as well check this out. And the deeper I started watching a little bit more about it and researching a little bit more about it, and then it kind of got its hooks into me, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I literally couldn't stop thinking about it. I'd wake up in the morning and it was the first thing on my mind, and when I went to sleep it was the last thing on my mind. And then I became less and less sure of my original belief and perspective, and this one started to look more and more convincing. And I decided that I needed a more powerful tool or power to give me a clearer perspective. And I decided that ayahuasca was that. And so I had some travels coming up. I was teaching some seminars in Ireland. and then I was going through to New York to meet some individuals for another business project. And in between that, I decided to stop off a day in Amsterdam. My travel schedule allowed me to do that, and there was a particular retreat that was offering ayahuasca in Amsterdam that I hadn't been to before, but decided to go to it. So during the course of this ayahuasca experience, I went into it with one of the primary intentions of finding out clarity and truth regarding this topic. And the truth, or at least a big piece of the puzzle that is the truth about the nature of reality and what is going on with human beings and what is going on in this world, was revealed to me in a very, 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 very psychologically challenging way. This particular piece of information formed a linchpin of my psyche and of pretty much everyone I know's psyche. If I think about it, a large portion of the population builds their view of reality on this piece of information. And I was fasting before I took this ayahuasca, and I took these 2 very, very strong doses. And I probably had been fasting for too long, so that's when it really kicks your ass. But it showed me that a large portion of the beings on this planet are under a very, very powerful illusory spell, a very, very powerful spell that has been woven into their minds since their youngest ages. And when this spell was broken, and it was finally broken through this ayahuasca journey, at the point that it was broken, I was extremely vulnerable psychologically due to the fact that I was on this very powerful DMT ayahuasca trip. And as that pillar of my psyche was chopped out from under me, I have mentioned to a couple of people that I think I probably came 1 or 2 neurons, or 1 or 2 neurological connections away from complete insanity. At one point I was like, this is it, Nick. You have pushed yourself too far, you have pushed your luck too far, you've broken yourself now in your crazy quest for the truth. You have gone too far. And it was terrifying. When I tell you it was terrifying. And somehow I made it back. Somehow I made it back from that, but it shook me to my core. And I just want it to be made very clear that I'm much happier now. I'm rebuilding the foundations of my worldview, but this time it's on a truth, not a falsehood. And it's been a very, very interesting, sometimes scary and exciting process. But the main thing that I'd like to impart to you and our audience, and it's not the truth that I found. It's something else that was a byproduct that I experienced during the darkest point, when my very idea of what it is to be human and where I am and what's going on was crumbling. The one thing I held on to was people. That was the one thing. Like, I thought of my best friend, I thought of my fiance, and those reference points let me know that I was a real thing and that I wasn't insane. And I found that fascinating, how it wasn't things, it wasn't achievements, it wasn't how much money I have in my bank account, it wasn't my jiu-jitsu black belt, it wasn't any of that, it was people. And to round out a very long answer, I think that's one aspect of being awake, is understanding what's important.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, man. That is, whoo, that's powerful. I'm like, I'm blown back a little bit. I assumed, as you were describing, sort of putting a nice bow on that incredible answer, those are probably the things you think about in the death experience as well, correct? Like as you're passing on into the next energetic realm, out of this mortal coil, as they say, I assume you think about the people rather than your achievements and your money and the things, even less the experiences. It's probably about love and relationships. And this is really intriguing because the implication of all this is that, of course, everyone is deceived, correct? So we're all, for the most part...
I don't think everyone is.
But for the most part, the majority of the planet.
And here's the strangest thing of all. I think, Thomas, I'm going to sit you down and tell you the full story. And like I keep saying to the very select few people that I'd like to reveal this to at this point, I need to be sitting face to face with them so that they can see in my eyes that I'm not crazy when I tell them this story of what actually happened and what I discovered. And what I wanted to say, and something that my fiance, whose wisdom continues to amaze me, something that she pointed out to me is that this deception is not necessarily a bad thing, and that there are two ways to be human, to play this human game, to experience it. And one is knowing this truth, and the other one is purposely forgetting it or being deceived by it, because they are two very different games. And I don't know that either one is better than the other, but I'm at the point where there's no way back for me. I have to play it the other way. And I've been thinking to tell you about this. And there's certain people that I don't want to share this with yet, because it really is a red pill, blue pill moment, man. It really is.
I mean, all I can think about is Joe Pantoliano eating that bite of ribeye in the Matrix and saying ignorance is bliss. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. But isn't that interesting? I feel like I came upon a similar conclusion being on that island in Nicaragua. Like, and it doesn't sound good coming back and saying it to the people that I know here in Los Angeles. And I'll say this now no, maybe I shouldn't say, well, I'll say it anyway. The thing that I've been saying to my trusted and close friends, and now to the audience, is that I don't think the highest expression of who I am is to be a series regular on CSI Miami or whatever, the end of the rainbow is in Hollywood or in Los Angeles in general, or the entertainment industry. And you could say I'm shooting myself in the foot there for just flat out admitting like that's not going to make me happy, when that's all everyone's breaking their neck to do here, and build lifetimes of dreams on these things that just walking in a coconut grove, I realized that's not everything that I do in LA is built on this idea of who I think I'm supposed to be rather than who I really am. And who I really am, and who everyone probably really is just light and this expression of peace and happiness. And it all gets so fucked up by a sense of place or lack thereof, motives, fears, anxieties, all these things that I sort of alluded to in the beginning, and you definitely alluded to. It's all a superstructure that we choose to be a part of or we don't. And my ego is having a really hard time letting go of who I think I'm supposed to be in Los Angeles compared to who I was in that coconut grove in Nicaragua.
I hear you, my brother. I really do hear you. Man, I think we should end this one there. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in person in the next few weeks to share the truth with you.
Yeah, man. If anyone isn't intrigued at this point, then you should probably stop listening to the show, because I want to know this great truth, and I want to know how I'm being deceived. I think I have a pretty good idea, but man, I can't wait to hear. This is like a fucking great cliffhanger for this episode.
Cool.
But thank you for that. I mean, that's a gut shot, dude. And for everyone listening, thanks for listening, and please leave us a... Look, I'm doing the ending. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. Follow the Instagram, the Facebooks. By the way, there's a webpage as well where articles have been written, and there's video. You can see us talking about these things and all the tears that are being shed in the course of this show. But thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Until then, blessings.
Blessings.